Hey, Dr. Ray here, founder of the Learning Liaisons, and welcome. Welcome to our Wednesday evening math sessions featuring our math specialist and your math specialist, Amy Sink. In the next hour, Amy has put together a sample set of approximately 10 practice questions that run the gamut from kindergarten levels all the way through 12th grade high school math. Now, I know you are attending here, watching this, and you're like, well, I'm doing elementary in Texas, or I'm doing elementary in Praxis, or I'm doing high school math in Florida, or middle school math in Texas. And what's going on here, right? So we're doing these sessions to help you guys out and provide you with different ways to look at problems and to build that confidence. Because here at the Learning Liaisons, one of our major objectives is to clear up the testing confusion, give you the support you deserve in order to nail your exam and be done with it. So our focus is on math. Now, are we going to be just focusing on high school math the whole hour or elementary? No, we've got a mixture here. Now, Amy is going to go through a bunch of problems. You're going to have the opportunity to download those as a PDF. So when Amy starts, just pay attention to the screen. We're going to have a message there for you so you can download the PDF in case we don't get to all the problems or want to practice on your own. She's going to do her best to go across all different grade levels. If you have a question, you feel free to ask Amy your question as well. We're teachers here too, so we can multitask. Our job is to make sure that we give you what you need to be successful. But if you're like, dang it, I didn't have any questions this week, don't worry, we'll be here next Wednesday night as well. So bring those questions with you if you want, and you can ask Amy away. Because here at the Learning Liaisons, we pride ourselves in providing you guys the support you need to pass your exam. So whether you're our Florida teachers here with our FTCE exams, our national exam, Praxis peeps, big shout out to you guys out there too, and especially our newcomers to the Learning Liaisons brand, TExES Prep. So whether you're elementary, middle school, and high school, we've got your back. So sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, get ready to learn some math, and stay tuned for the end because I'm going to jump back on to close this out. And I got a special surprise for you guys who really want to get the real deal prep and get everything you need to be successful and practice, clear up that confusion, and pass your certification exam on the next attempt. So, welcome to the Learning Liaisons community. Always remember, it's when you pass, not if you pass. So without further ado, let's turn it over to the reason why you're here, Amy. You with us, Amy? Let's get going.
Hey everybody, welcome to Wednesday night math night. Like Dr. A said, I am Amy Sink and I am one of the math specialists here at the Learning Liaisons. And we just love doing this on Wednesday nights. That is no exaggeration. It is my pride and joy to just share my passion for mathematics with you and make you, or hope to make you, love math a little bit more. These tests are not easy. These tests are hard and they ask hard questions. And so my goal is to help you process some of these problems a little differently, but also help you love math just a little bit more. So with that said, I always like to do a get to know you question. Makes it feel a little less like we are sitting here in front of a computer screen. So in the comment box, let me know where you're from. What test are you prepping for? And we're going to go with a super simple one. What's your favorite color? My favorite color depends. I love any color that's like astro bright, like super, 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 super neon. Neon pink, neon electric green, neon electric blue. I feel like it describes my personality. And so I love any of those colors. But if I'm talking about like house colors, I don't have neon electric pink and neon electric blue in my house. I would say for my house, my favorite color is black. We are super into like black accent walls, black like shiplap with like the gold and the white accents. So it just kind of depends on, what are we talking about? Are we talking about just favorite color in general, or are we talking about favorite color to wear or favorite color in the house? So that's my answer. It's never a simple answer with me, right? So where are you from? What test are you prepping for? And what's your favorite color? We are here every Wednesday night. We do this free service just for you. We do have way more extensive like boot camps and stuff that you have access to, but these Wednesday night sessions are just for you. In the comment box, as we're working through problems tonight, I want you to think about what you need from me. So I always like to add a next week section because these sessions are for you. So you'll notice down here that we have a GK special happening today. That does not mean that if you are taking any other test, you won't get anything out of tonight, because in fact, I want to talk to you about the GK. The GK covers grades 4th through about 9th grade math. So if you're taking elementary, you're covered. If you're taking middle school math, you're covered. If you're taking high school math, you're covered. So all of my people here are covered when I do a GK special, but I am specifically focusing on problems and styles of problems that are on the GK, but it benefits everybody. So that was the number one question that I had last week was, can you please do this? I'm taking the GK. Can you please do this? I'm taking the GK. And so that's where we're getting that from. Hi, Jen. It's good to see you. You are taking the GK. Perfect. And you love blue. Hi, Melissa from Houston, Texas. You are taking the 273 and you like pink. Hello, R from San Antonio, taking the EC6. And you like cobalt blue. That's a good one too. Hi, Lydia, also taking the EC6. Awesome. And you love purple. It is good to see some new faces tonight. I love it. So as I'm working, if you have any questions, you can always ask me any questions you have. And as we are working tonight, be thinking about what you want to see in the upcoming weeks. And I will absolutely add it to my upcoming week list. If you had something on the list last week that did not make it in this week, it will make it in next week. But if it didn't have to specifically do with the GK, it did not make it into tonight's set of problems. I think that's it. So let's go ahead and get started with the first problem. July is building a rectangular garden. She determined that the width of the garden is 2x minus 7, and the length of the garden is x plus 3. What is the perimeter of the garden? All right, so this, if you are taking the GK, you will notice the competency that this problem addresses listed at the top. So if you are taking the GK, you'll notice that this is going to address competency 2. If you are not taking the GK, then you don't need to worry about that because the problem is still going to be beneficial for you. So let's take a look at this problem. July is building a rectangular garden. So the minute I read that, my brain is going to say, draw a rectangle, Amy, and I'm going to draw a rectangle. There's my rectangle, although it didn't automatically adjust. So we're going to try it one more time. Okay, still didn't automatically adjust. So we're just going to do it a third time. And if it still doesn't adjust, we're just going to live with the rectangle that we have. Yep, still not working. That's okay. Usually, like if I put like pressure on it, then it will automatically adjust. Hey, Kendra, good to see you. GK Math, awesome. She determined that the width is 2x minus 7 and that the length is x plus 3. Now, if you put x plus 3 right here and 2x minus 7 right here, it's not going to change how this problem is solved. So no worries, because addition and multiplication are both commutative, which means they can be done in any order. So what is the perimeter of the garden? Well, I know that perimeter is the distance around a shape. Perimeter is the distance around a shape. And just for kicks and giggles, for definition purposes, area is the square units inside a 2D shape. So if I'm looking for perimeter, I want to know the distance from here to here to here to here and all the way back. So I am going to do 2x minus 7 plus x plus 3 plus 2x minus 7 plus x plus 3. And you're like, Amy, how did you get 2x minus 7 and x plus 3 and 2x minus 7 and x plus 3? Well, if it's a rectangle, then I know that this side is congruent to this side. And so this side is also x plus 3, which means this side is also 2x minus 7. And perimeter is the distance around. Even though I don't have an actual number, I can figure it out by going this side plus this side plus this side plus this side, and that will give me my perimeter. So let's go ahead and look at this. I'm going to look to see where my like terms are. So I'm going to add or subtract all of my x terms, excuse me, and all of my constants. So all of my x's are positive. So I have 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. 5 plus 1 is 6. So I have 6x. And then I have negative 7 plus 3 is negative 4. Hey, Marco, it's good to see you. And then I have negative 7 plus 3 is negative 4. And negative 4 minus 4 is negative 8. So minus 8. 6x minus 8 is my answer. Any questions about that? My GK people, my elementary people, my middle and high school people, questions? If you think of a question and I've already moved on, ask it. I'll go back and answer it. So we're going to move on to problem 2, but if you have a question, don't hesitate to ask. Students in a science class are allowed to drop their lowest quiz grade. If a student earns the following grades, which grade will be dropped? 3 out of 4, 3 out of 5, 74%, or 7 out of 10. So if I'm trying to figure out which one of these is the lowest, I need to put them all in a form that allows me to really compare and contrast them. So I have fractions here and I have percents here, but really fractions, decimals, percents, and ratios are all kind of in one big, happy, extended family. And so I can really convert between any of these and do it pretty easily to be able to compare one to another. The easiest way to compare these is going to be by putting them in decimal form. Because if they're all in decimal form, then I can compare their place value to figure out which one will be dropped, which is the lowest quiz grade. So the first one I'm going to put in decimal form is going to be the percent, because converting a percent into a decimal is really quite simple. I take my decimal, I move it 2 places to the left, and I immediately have my decimal. So by moving the decimal 2 places to the left, hop, 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 I have 0.74. Now, how do I go about doing that with the fractions? How do I go about doing that with the fractions? So I'm going to take the fractions that I see and I'm going to turn them into division problems. So I am going to do 7 divided by 10. Now, don't get confused and do this because the 10 is bigger and mistake, and then all of a sudden we have the wrong answer. Remember, when I convert a fraction into a decimal or a fraction into a division problem, that's really what it's going to look like. Now, 10 cannot go into 7, obviously, because this fraction is less than 1. So my answer is going to be less than 1. So I'm going to add a decimal 0 because $7 and $7.00 are the same thing. 10 can go into 77 times, and that is going to be my conversion. So I have 0.74. I have 0.7, and I'm going to add a 0 just so that it has the same number of place values as the other. And then I'm going to do the same thing with 3/4 and 3/5. Now, I know off the top of my head that 3/4 is 0.75. If you are good at memorizing, I would memorize your anchor fractions in decimal, percent, and fraction form. So a half would be 1/2, 50%, 0.5. 3/4 would be 3/4, 75%, 0.75. 1/4 would be 25%, 0.25, 1/4. If you can memorize some of those anchor fractions, it's going to make your life a little easier. But if not, let's go ahead and do the division. 3 divided by 4, add a decimal 0. 4 can go into 30 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. Add another 0 and drop it. 4 can go into 25 times, hence the 0.75. Let's do the same thing with 3 divided by 5. Decimal 0, 5 can go into 30 6 times, and that is my answer. So which one of these is the lowest quiz score? 60%. You're absolutely right. All right, questions? Let's go ahead and move on to the next problem. Simplify. 18 minus 6 divided by 4 plus 2 times 3 minus 5. All right. So this is competency 1. This other problem was also competency 1. If you're taking the GK. If you're not taking the GK, it doesn't matter what competency it is. It probably still applies to you. Let's go ahead and look at this problem. 18 minus 6 divided by 4 plus 2 times 3 minus 5. So, order of operations says PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And I paired them up like that for a reason. P stands for parentheses, E stands for exponent, M stands for multiplication, D stands for division, addition, and subtraction. When we think about the order of operations, I'm going to partner some things together. Back in the day when I was learning PEMDAS, I learned parentheses always comes first, then exponents, then multiplication comes next no matter what, then division, then addition, then subtraction. But really, it's a fluid process. I'm going to do my parentheses and my exponents first, but then when I get to multiplication and division, I'm going to do them as a pair. They come together as a pair, and I'm going to do them in whatever order they show up in the problem left to right. So if I have division before multiplication, I'm going to do the division first and then the multiplication. I'm not going to do the multiplication first. And then addition and subtraction come as a pair. So I'm going to do all the multiplication and division first. Then I'm going to do the addition and subtraction, but I'm going to do them in any order, whichever one comes first, left to right. So I'm going to solve parentheses first because that is what comes first in PEMDAS. And that is not, and there's no exponents. So I'm going to rewrite the problem so I have enough room. (18 minus 6 is 12. I'm going to rewrite everything the same. because I do not like to do multiple steps at once in a problem like this, because I don't want to miss a step, and I don't want to do too many steps at once and make a silly error. So then I'm going to solve this parentheses. 12 divided by 4 plus 2 is 6 times 3 minus 5. What comes next? Now that I've done parentheses, there are no exponents. What comes next? Multiplication and division come next. I am going to do them in whatever order they show up in the problem. So I'm going to do 12 divided by 6, then multiply it by 3. So 12 divided by 6 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. And now I can go ahead and do 6 minus 5, which is 1. So my answer is 1. A couple of the really common errors that people make in this problem. One really super common and my computer. Yep, thank you. I don't know why my computer just did that. It just all of a sudden froze, and then it just disappeared. And my computer. Yep, thank you. And I was trying to watch the stream on my Facebook on my phone to see what was happening. So, RB, I wish I saw your comment earlier so that it would tell me that it lost transmission, but I didn't figure it out until after my computer just went shut down. All right, so I don't know at what point it stopped for you. So were you able to see me solve the rest of that problem? I'm gonna because the comments come in like a couple seconds delayed. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next problem. How far did I get in that problem for you before you lost me? Because I don't want to leave you hanging, but I also don't want to resolve it if you already saw it. So the answer was 1. Jen, thank you so much. You got the answer. The answer is 1. And then I was just probably babbling on about the most common mistake. Thank you. Okay, I was babbling on about the most common mistakes. Let's go over that because that is important. So let me reconnect my iPad to my computer, and then we will go from there. So common mistakes. People do the multiplication before the division because the division came first in that transcription. And so people will do one before the other. Another common mistake is people don't realize that the parentheses matter. And so people will just drop the parentheses, and people will just drop the parentheses and then solve the order of operations from there. And then I think those are the two most common mistakes that people make. So yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the next problem. It's still trying to connect. Come on, silly computer. All right. Did y'all have a good week? Let's just chat for a little bit while my iPad's working on connecting. Did you have a good week? That's my question for you. And if it doesn't connect, we'll just go old school, and I'll just kind of hold up my iPad and you can follow along like that, because we ain't got all night, right? Jen, You passed your ELA in your reading. That is huge. I am so incredibly proud of you. Melissa, I am so sad that you didn't have a good week. I am not having the best week myself either, so I feel you on that. But just know, if I worked with you, I would give you a huge hug right now, and I would tell you, you can get through the week. You can. I am sorry that you didn't have a good week. One of the things that I am a part of this cohort, this learning cohort. And one of the things that this learning cohort does is she tells us to look for the glimmers in our day. And so, it's just something super small, my glimmer in my day was that this kid said that they liked my dress today, or my glimmer was that a kid told me that they got a new dog today, or something so small. Or the glimmer on Monday was seeing the excitement on all the kids' faces when they saw the solar eclipse. That was super cool and something that we could easily overlook. So that's what I try to do when my week is just really, really rough. You're getting over a sinus infection. Dude, I am getting over a strep throat. I had strep throat all weekend, and at least you get an antibiotic and you can move on with your life. But I had strep throat all weekend and it was not fun. Kendra, you took your kindergartners to the farm today. Stop. We had 2 grade levels go on field trips today, 2nd grade and 3rd grade. I'm an assistant principal. And I am obsessed with field trips. They literally are my favorite part of being in an elementary school. The zoo is the best kindergarten field trip ever. We had kids go to Legoland today and then our environmental center. But field trips are just the best. That's so fun. I love that you got to do that today, Kendra. All right, this iPad's not connecting, so we're just going to go old school. We're just going to do math like this. Here we go. All right. This is still Competency 2, geometry, and let's go ahead and get started. Select the geometric figure that possesses all of the following characteristics. 1, quadrilateral. 2, no, I do not want you to airplane. Oh, yeah, thank you. 2, exactly 2 pairs of congruent parallel sides. 3, at least 1 right angle. The answer choices are A, triangle, B, rectangle, C, rhombus, or D, parallelogram. So when we think about what they have to be a quadrilateral. It has to be a quadrilateral. Well, which answer choice is automatically out because it has to be a quadrilateral? Triangle. A quadrilateral, by definition, is a 4-sided, and I'm writing upside down, so just bear with me, a 4-sided shape. Yes, Jen, excellent job. So if it's a 4-sided shape, then triangle is out. Now it's between rectangle, rhombus, and parallelogram. Exactly 2 pairs of congruent parallel sides. Well, unfortunately, that is rectangle, rhombus, and parallelogram, having exactly 2 pairs of congruent parallel sides. But which one has to have at least 1 right angle? Which one has to have at least 1 right angle? The only one that has to have a right angle is a rectangle. Not a rhombus, not a parallelogram, a rectangle. So when we think about what these shapes actually look like, a triangle could look a lot of different ways. We ruled it out because it's not a quadrilateral. Not going to draw that one. But a rectangle, by definition, has to have that right angle, right? A rectangle, by definition, has to have that right angle, but it also has the 2 pairs of congruent parallel sides also. But a rhombus does not have to have a right angle. Can a rhombus have a right angle? Yes. A rhombus, by definition, it has two pairs of congruent parallel sides and equal sides. That's the only thing that a rhombus is defined by. So a rhombus, typically we think of a rhombus as looking like a pushed over square, but a rhombus is also a square is also a rhombus. A rhombus is not always a square. Do not think that. A square is always a rhombus because a square has four equal sides and two sets of congruent parallel sides. But a rhombus is not always a square because a rhombus does not have to have that right angle. So this is a rhombus that is not a square. This is a rhombus that is a square because that square has two sets of congruent parallel lines and equal sides, aka a rhombus. So that's where quadrilaterals and the definitions and the vocabulary start to get really, really cumbersome, is when we have to start thinking about all the different possibilities and scenarios. And then a parallelogram, I like to think of like the standard parallelogram as a pushed over a rectangle, but really a rectangle, a rhombus, a square, and a rectangle are all parallelograms because by definition, a parallelogram has exactly two pairs of congruent parallel sides. That is the definition of a parallelogram. And so that's what this is. But then any shape that has that is also a parallelogram. Does that make sense? It's a lot to handle on a Wednesday night. All right. Any questions? I'm going to try to connect this one last time because it is really, really hard to do this upside down. So we're going to try to connect this one last time. And if it doesn't work, then I'm just going to give up and be fine with it. But while we're waiting, let me know in the comment box what you want to see me go over in the upcoming weeks. Let me know in the comment box, what do you want to see me go over in the upcoming weeks? That will give us some time filler, and then we can move forward. So what are you struggling with? What do you want to see me solve? What kinds of problems are you wanting? And fingers crossed it connects, because if it doesn't, then the math becomes very, very difficult. Let's see. Come on. Come on, iPad. Okay, it's not connecting. All right, we're just going to do upside down math today. It is what it is. Problem number 5. Oh, this one is, I'm so proud of myself for this one. I came up with this one and I was like, ooh, this is a good one. EC6 core subject math. That is I will add it to my list, but that's a really super broad topic. So is there anything specific on the EC6 that you want to see me go over? EC6. Probability always lands on this list. GK word problems. That's a good one. And probability is just not my strength. I mean, I can do it, but we all have strengths and weaknesses, and that ain't one of my strengths. All right. Which of the following is not an area of one of the faces of the following figure if the height is 12? If the height is 12. Okay, here's what I want to chat about. With a prism, the height is not from the ground to the ceiling. And that is one of the most common mistakes people make. People assume that this right here is the height. And I am having such a hard time writing upside down. People assume that this right here is the height because it looks like this is the ground and this is the sky, and height measures that. But in a prism, that is not the height. The height is the distance between the two identical bases. In this situation, this is a triangular prism because I have two triangle bases that are connected between, or that are connected by rectangles. And so when we look at this, this is the height right here, and they tell us that the height is 12. And then they say which of the following is not an area of one of the faces. So really, they are giving us the opportunity to find surface area and then saying which one is not an area of the face. So I need to find the area of the triangle and of my rectangles and then figure out which one is not an area. So if this is 12, this is 3, this is 4, what is this? Well, this is kind of a multi-step problem because I need that information to be able to figure out the area of this rectangle right here. But then I'm going to switch colors because I need to figure out the area of this bottom rectangle. And then I'm going to switch colors because I need to figure out the area of this back rectangle. Well, we know that if the height is 12, that this is 12 and this dotted line is 12 because those are all lines that are connecting my triangles together. And the blue rectangle has a side of 12 and a side of 3. So 12 times 3 equals 36. What about the green rectangle? The green rectangle is 12 times what? 12 times 4. Well, 12 times 4 is 48. And then what about the pink rectangle? Well, we don't know the other side of the pink rectangle yet. But what if I don't know how to find that? I'm just going to leave it alone. Good test-taking strategy says figure out what I can figure out, and then I'll figure out the rest later, right? So I know that 12 times 3 is 36. So I can cross off 36 over here because 36 is a side of one of my faces. I can cross off 48 because 48 is a side of one of my faces. And I know that the area of a triangle, that is not a triangle. Let's try that again. The area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. Well, the base of my triangle is 3 and the height of my triangle is 4. So I can do 1/2 times 3 times 4, which is 1/2 of 12, which is 6. Which I realize there's two answers here because which is not an area of one of the faces? 12 is definitely not an area of a face because the area of this triangle is 6, which means the area of this triangle is also 6. And I figured out the blue and the green, and the pink is going to have to be bigger than both of those because this side, this long side, is longer than the 4 and the 3. So 24 is also a correct answer. Now, when I created this problem, I didn't mean to have two correct answers. That was a mistake on my part. But some of you have two correct answers. The GK will not have two correct answers unless it says select all. But some of us do have two correct answers or 3 correct answers. So that is a possibility, but not on the GK. So please know that. How do I know that this side is longer than 3 and 4? Because I know in a right triangle, that the hypotenuse, which is the side across from that 90-degree angle, is always the longest side. And so if that's the longest side, then 12 times something is going to have to be greater than 36 and 48, not less than. So 12 and 24 are going to be correct. Now, you might be asking yourself, Amy, how, like, I get all of that, but how do I actually figure that out? Like, if I wanted to know how to figure that side out, how do I do that? Well, GK people, you can. How do you find the missing side of a right triangle? You simply do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. This is known as the Pythagorean theorem. The Pythagorean theorem says that in a right triangle, A and B are the lengths of your sides, and C is the length of your hypotenuse. So if I'm looking for a missing side, I can plug it in and figure it out. So I can plug in 3 squared plus 4 squared, and that's going to equal C squared. 9 plus 16, because 3 times 3 is 9, and 4 times 4 is 16, equals C squared. 9 plus 16 is 25, equals C squared. And in this case, I can square root 25. The square root of 25 is 5. So C is 5, and 12 times 5 is 60, which means that 12 and 24 are both not areas of this specific prism. Why the 12 and the 24? Because they are not areas, or they are not areas of the figure. Like, I just literally made those two numbers up as not areas of the figure. It's good to see you, Milagros. All right, questions? Concerns? You ready to move on to the next one? Let's do it. Oh, I went backwards. Oof, that one, y'all, is such a good problem, but that is going to be impossible for me to solve upside down. So it's this really awesome word problem for geometry, but I'm going to save that one for next week because it's really going to be hard for me to do it well upside down. So we're just going to move on to problem 7 instead, and we will do problem 6 next week because otherwise it's just going to be hard for me to explain it. All right. Which of the following, we are moving into competency 3 on the GK. Which of the following is true for X in the equation? Which of the following is true for X in the equation? All right. So I can do this one of two ways. I can pick numbers and plug them into this equation or this inequality and solve for it, or I can solve this algebraically. Personally, I am an algebraic solver all day, but I know not everybody is. So let's go ahead and solve this algebraically, and then I'll show you how to use the answer choices to help you. So I'm just going to rewrite it really quickly, and then we'll solve it together. Negative 3x minus 5 is greater than or equal to negative 5x plus 9. All right. So I am going to go ahead and add 5x to both sides. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So if I add 5x to this side, and then I add 5x to this side, then I can go ahead and solve it. Negative 3 plus 5 is 2x minus 5 is greater than or equal to 9. Now I'm going to add 5 to both sides because, again, whatever I do to one side, I can do to another. And really, at this point, all I'm doing is I'm trying to move puzzle pieces around so that the x's are together on one side and the constants are together on the other side. So I have 2x is greater than or equal to 14. How do I get that x by itself? Divide both sides by 2. And x is greater than or equal to 7, which is A. Now, what if that process did not make sense to you and you wanted to use the answer choices to help you? Well, I can look at these answer choices and see that it's greater than or equal to. So because of that, I am going to, and these are very similar, and these are very similar. So I'm going to take the number 7 and I'm going to plug it into my equation. Or I can plug in the number 8, or I can plug in the number 4. I'm going to pick a number and plug it in. I'm going to plug in the number 8. Because if I plug in the number 7, what I'm going to end up getting is that x is equal to, greater than or equal to 7, but that would satisfy both of these. So I'm going to either pick 8 or I'm going to pick 6. I'm going to pick a number either greater than 7 or less than 7. Because if it equals 7, A and B would be correct answers. So I'm going to plug in 8. Negative 3 times 8 minus 5 is greater than or equal to negative 5 times 8 plus 9. And I'm going to solve this. Negative 3 times 8 is negative 24. Minus 5 is negative 29. Is greater than or equal to whatever's over here. Negative 5 times 8 is negative 40. Plus 9 is negative 31. Is negative 29 greater than or equal to negative 31? Yes, it is. Because remember, negatives are kind of like opposite positive numbers. So negative 29 is further to the right than negative 31. So negative 29 is greater than negative 31. So by plugging that into that equation, it allowed me to gain a correct answer, which meant that A actually was correct without doing all that algebra, if the algebra part of that was confusing for you. All right, we have time for one more problem, so we're going to go ahead and do this one, and then I'll turn it back over to Dr. A. Which of the following best describes why the following is a function? For students in a class, assign their height. A, each student has exactly one student number. B, students will only have one value for their height. C, each student's height can be measured exactly. Or D, the chance of two students having the same height is small. So let's chat about what a function is first. A function is a graph that has exactly one y for every x. That's confusing, so let's look at it in terms of the vertical line test. So a function is a graph that when I draw it, and I draw little dotted lines all the way through it, every time I draw a dotted line or an imaginary vertical line, I'm only going to hit my graph one time. That means it's a function. But if I draw a graph, and here's my graph, and I draw a little green dotted line, and anywhere on the graph it hits it 2 times, it is not a function. So when we think about that in terms of the very mathy way I defined this, for every x, there can only be one y. So for this x value, I have two y values because I went up and down. Or even if I went up and up, if I hit that twice, then it is not a function. However, if I draw a graph and it looks something like this, that is okay because when I draw a vertical line, it still only hits it one time. So I can plateau or go straight as long as it's in the horizontal direction. So why is this a function? Because every student has one student number. Yeah, that's a hard no because this has nothing to do with this situation right here. It has nothing to do with that situation right there. B, students will only have one value for their height. Well, that is absolutely true. And when we think about the graph, and I think about my x and my y axis is going to be my students, my y axis is going to be my height, and students can only have one height. I can't be that tall and this tall at the same time. That is why this is a function. Each student's height can be measured exactly. That has nothing to do with my actual graph. And so that's not telling me whether it's a function. And the chance of two students having the same height doesn't matter because if this student and this student are the same height, I still pass the vertical line test because that creates a horizontal line, not a vertical line. So that's why B is the correct answer. All righty. Well, even though my iPad didn't disconnect today, it was my computer, it was still kind of a cluster today, and that's okay. Next week, I have some really, really good problems that we're going to do. Plus, I will make sure I have probability, that GK word problem, anything else you want to see from me, let me know in the comment box. I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. A, and I will see you all next week. Have a fantastic week. Melissa, I hope your week gets better, and I will see you all here in another week. Bye.
All right, so wasn't that an amazing session? Now, I know, depending on what exam you have to take, you're like, man, that was great, but she didn't address everything I needed. She focused on all different questions, and I just need elementary, or I just need middle school, I just need high school. Don't worry. Since you're still with us, I've got a special surprise for you. If you use the coupon code, all capital letters, SINK35, that's SINK 35, that will take off 35% off any of our prep courses on our website at the Learning Liaisons. Doesn't have to just be math. It could be anything that you need that we offer. And this is going to be an ongoing deal for you guys who attend these live sessions because these are great. I'm sure Amy opened your eyes to some new concepts, some new ways to tackle problems, building that confidence. But this is just a smidget of your exam, the concepts on your test. So if you want the comprehensive view with the practice with Amy, with the practice test, with the lessons and the content review, we've got your back on our video boot camps, which all of them feature Amy Sink, your math specialist. So if you want to take advantage of that, the code is SINK35. You can use that at checkout on the learningliaisons.com website. And all that information is on our website as well and on the bottom of the screen in this video. So we are here to help you. Once again, always remember, it's when you pass, not if you pass. Thank you for joining us again today. And hopefully we'll see you next week too. Talk to you soon.